Hello everybody, welcome to another build video where I'm going to show off one of my latest creations. This is the Minotaurs Labyrinth. I posted a teaser about this a while ago, it took me a lot longer than I thought it was going to, and plus I got distracted by the race car build, but anyway, I want to show this. I'll give you a quick tour of the labyrinth and then kind of go over the build process a little bit. I'm not going to show you the entire thing. We'll talk about some of the lessons learned because this turned out to be a pretty massive and expensive project. But anyway, we are actually in the island house, island sandbox house, and inside there's a little grind area that you expect to play around a little bit with making a kind of cool little rainfall bath here. Otherwise, it's just your typical water bowls. I thought a water cooler would look a little out of place in something kind of medieval looking, so just stuck one in this cup of water, and I think he even made like a little medieval bowl of donuts. It's dangerous to go alone. Take this, a little old school gaming reference there. If you get it, you get it. But anyway, let's go and take a look inside. Your goal here, so my idea was to make this a competition, maybe like a giveaway sort of thing. If the first person to find the throne room in the labyrinth would win something, and so that's what gave me the inspiration for this in the first place, to make channel content and avoid the death traps. There are 8, I believe, false kind of like chambers that have various little death traps, and I'll show each of them to you, and a little shameless self-promotion. So first, I'll just show you all the kind of death trap and give you a tour of the labyrinth. And there's one I know pretty close to the beginning, and then the rest I'll have to consult my map for because I get lost in here a lot. So this is the first one I did, and this text used to be red, but there's a bug right now where it messed up the text of the sign thing, and then it looked dripping, and this poor guy just met a pretty brutal end here. So we can actually make this an educational video too while I'm wandering around here getting lost. For those who don't know the story of the Minotaur was, of course, a half man, half bull. He was the son of a king who, of course, made the gods mad. Usually all these things start with gods being mad, and his wife wound up bearing a half man, half bull. And, well, here we are. Here's another death room. This is a spider. If I had more light, I didn't put a torch in here. You can kind of see. Spiders don't really like fire, but even made the web too. There was a web bed that I could have used to try to make it, but then that actually allows people to teleport between the walls because it has an action button to lay on it. So I kind of had to make my own, and it turned out a little janky, but whatever. There's some eggs back there too. Probably going to be another spider. So anyway, where were we? So King Minos, whose wife bore a half man, half bull, imprisoned the Minotaur in the labyrinth that he commissioned a great architect, Daedalus, to build. And it was typically circular in nature, but I wasn't even going to try to make something circular because that would just be... this is a game that doesn't handle circles well. Let's just say that much. It is, roblox, not row circles. But anyway, so he commissioned the Daedalus to create this labyrinth that was so tricky that the creator himself couldn't even find his way out or whatever. And so he imprisoned the Minotaur in there. And so we're coming up, I think, on another death trap here. I had the idea from a friend who was building the biodome, and I said, you know what, you should put giant man-eating plants in your biodome. So I kind of made and tried to make it a little poisonous. I made this before I put the roof on this thing, and it kind of cut it off, but at that point I didn't feel like trying to move it, but a little Shop of Horrors inspired thing there. Anyway, so the labyrinth, the Minotaur was imprisoned in there, and every so often, I don't remember how often, but they would basically sacrifice a bunch of Athenians to the Minotaur by, a bunch of males and females would be sent into the labyrinth, and of course, they would meet a rather grim fate at the hand of the Minotaur, and that was the sacrifice to appease the gods that King Minos did, and mostly to pay for what he had done in making the gods mad in the first place. So eventually, you know, here I am getting lost. It's actually hard to. I'm looking at a map, trying to talk theology. Here we go, another death room. This was kind of like an Indiana Jones inspired. With the wall moved, and you came in here, and suddenly splat, you're getting impaled upon a bunch of spikes that I wish the clone tool had been available to make, because I wanted to just, making each of these by hand, and got a little tired of trying to place them. Anyway, so that is that. I think we have seen 1, 2, 3, 4 now, actually. So anyway, back to the myth. So eventually, the Athenians got tired of their people being sacrificed. So Theseus, one of the great heroes of mythology, slayed the Minotaur and made it out of the labyrinth, of course. And King Minos was, of course, very mad at this, not only because he had lost his Minotaur and was probably going to have even more wrath of the gods, but, oh, here we are. All right, so here we go. This guy, poor unlucky guy, wound up on a spit on a fire being cooked. I thought about putting like some sort of ogre back here that would be have a fork in his hand or something waiting for this to get cooked, and maybe I will, but these are taking a lot of time, and so was the rest of the maze, so I kind of said I'll come back to some of these. So anyway, King Minos, very mad, and suspected that the only way that Theseus could have done that is that he had help, obviously, and so he accused Daedalus of helping Theseus to make his way out of the labyrinth. So with the labyrinth now being unoccupied, he decided, well, I'm going to throw Daedalus in there. And so he threw the creator in there, and like I said, the creator had made such a good labyrinth that he couldn't make his way out of it. And for good measure, he threw his son Icarus in there. And, maybe you've heard, here we are, another death thing. This is the first one I used the blocks, or the display cases for, and to kind of make, and the first one that actually you can kind of get semi-trapped in, because you fall down in here with these piranhas, and you got to jump your way out a little bit, but nah, it's not really trapped. So anyway, Icarus, Daedalus in the, hold on, where am I? Okay, I think I need to go here. Okay, Icarus, Daedalus in the labyrinth, and they are, the only way they're going to get out is Daedalus crafts a pair of wings for Icarus. And so, anyone, if you've ever heard or seen Icarus, probably a lot of like Nintendo fans might recognize Icarus from video games, Kid Icarus, or I believe he's actually in Super Smash as well. But so he fashioned wings for Icarus and said, okay, now you've got to get out, you've got to make it out, and whatever you do, don't fly too close to the sun, because obviously your wings are made of, I think I left that part out. The wings are made of wax and other stuff I think they found in the labyrinth. So he's like, don't go too close to the sun, because you will melt your wings and then you'll plummet back to Earth. And being a teenager or whatever, typical, what does he do? He flies too close to the sun. This was my pride and joy of the worst torture rooms ever. Inspired by my friend Hannah, who said to make a torture room, and knowing she has a thing for feet, I said, you know what, this is going to be a tickle torture room. And so here is the torturer with a feather, which is a pet accessory, feather in there, eating a banana, because you got to keep your strength up when you're tickle torturing. And I was actually kind of happy with how this guy turned out here on the table. I was playing around with using blocks to kind of make, NPCs here and there, so it's slowly improving, but this was one of my more fun, I think, little torture rooms. So I think we have one left. So anyway, where were we? of course, okay, so Icarus makes his way out, and he flies too close to the sun, and his wings melt, and he plummets back to Earth and dies. And that is, you often hear the, oh, there we go. This is the last room where I had a bunch of mega yellow lip sea crates, which I'm not even sure if they're venomous or not, but I didn't have a lot of cobras, so this is what we got. Anyway, Icarus flew too close to the sun. You'll hear that a lot, kind of that kind of idiom, but whatever. But not flying too close to the sun, because and you'll hear a lot as when somebody's being overly ambitious or something, that they say, "Oh, you flew too close to the sun," and generally you pay the price. But and now we come to, I believe this should be the throne room, and just kind of trying to make this look as much as like, okay, you won, and probably when we actually have a competition, I'll say you have to sit here to win, because that way, if two people could arrive at the same time, whoever sits first is ultimately the winner. A little treasure here, kind of played around with that. Was playing around with some food options here. Apparently there's a turkey leg pet toy, but I made this one out of some cones and stuff. Here's some grapes and some beverages for the winner, and made a little sword here that they win, or just try to make this look as cool as possible. So anyway, that's the gist of the labyrinth. Now I will talk a little bit about how it was made. I need to get my pet here. I don't think it's downstairs showering or something, so I can fly out through the roof. There you are. It's the ring tiger. Oh, I do actually have a clear roof on this spot. So here you can see, obviously this is the entire labyrinth. It's massive. I think this is where the entrance is. Yes. So as I said, this is the island thing, but I wanted people to make sure they went into the labyrinth and not anywhere else on the island. I didn't want to have them to have to navigate somewhere else. So I kind of like threw a bunch of rocks and barriers around here to make it so that they had to go up the stairs. So I think if I turn on like X-ray, you'll see, there's just all sorts of stuff piled there, just to make sure that they were going to go straight into there, straight up the stairs. And the stairs were necessary because before they introduced the race car track, which would have been perfect for this, the only two sandboxes really were the island and the mountain house, and both of those have stuff everywhere when you first walk in. Like the mountain house has that bridge, this one has the mountain here, all sorts of trees and rocks. And I knew that if I wanted to build something as big, as massive as I wanted to, that I would need to get it up off the ground, because that way I wouldn't need to worry about, and I did at one point run into like problems with the tops of these rocks, and I had to raise the entire labyrinth more than once and even move it, which was a harrowing experience, because I flew really high and used the select all tool here to select the entire labyrinth, probably like 1,000 pieces, and then move it around, because at one point I discovered that even though it looks like you have all this space out here, eventually you run out, you're unable to move. And so I had built out this way, and then here it is, I've hit the wall now where I can't go any further than this. So there's these barriers here, and you don't know where they are until you hit them. So I had to move this labyrinth more than a few times. When I picked the walls, I knew there was a stroller hack available where basically people could go through walls with the stroller, really small walls. And so I knew I needed thick walls, and the mountain house walls are as thick as they come. I mean, they're just really super thick. You can't see too well from here, but you'll get an idea when I show in a little bit. So that's why I chose those walls, but they're also ridiculously expensive. So each of these pieces, so you can see just that little rectangle here is about $200 or whatever. So, and I used 100 of those easily, probably more. And so I think the walls alone cost about like 70 grand to make. And then when I was done, I realized, it looked really boring. Just had these gray walls everywhere you went, because it got really, you couldn't tell what the difference, and it became really boring. So then I went through the entire thing and started putting these little bricks here, and each of these like bricks are 200 each. Now I could have probably, taken some blocks, colored them, and then this was also before the clone tool, and I didn't want to have to deal with, coloring each block individually. Same reason I could have probably scaled walls to this size of the mountain house walls, but this was before the clone tool, and I didn't want to have to mess with scaling every single piece and making it fit. So I bit the bullet and probably spent a good 150 grand at least on this build. So let me just raise the roof here a little bit. I think it's a little tricky when it's this big because you can't tell where you are. So I think this will do it. Yes. Oh, I can raise the roof here if I need to get, and that exposes kind of the, I won't show everything because I don't want people to get too much idea of that about it, but you can get an idea now about the size of this, and it has a really thick floor, and here the thick walls, and my idea was I want to make sure nobody could make their way out. So I think I accomplished that. It was pricey, but well worth it. And eventually, when I have some competitions here, and I'll have a party, lock my doors, say 3, 2, 1, go, open it, and let people flood in and try to see who the first person to be able to find the throne room is. Unfortunately, I tried with a few testers to be able to watch people from afar, but once I zoom up, I don't really see them moving around too much inside of there, even with X-ray. So this will be tough. I won't be able to really record it like I thought I would, but we'll see. But stay tuned, subscribe, and if you want to see how this turns out and any of my other build videos, I have another one coming up soon. Thanks for watching.